All right,
Let's do it.
well, we have a quorum.
There we go.
All this
I
meeting
was
to
concerned
order.
for a second. Oh,
Nice. All right, citizens communication. The Finance Department welcomes public comment on items relevant to the city of Pflugerville, finance and budget. In accordance with the Texas Attorney General opinion, any public comment that is made on this item is not on an item that is not on the published agenda will only be heard by the committee. No formal action, discussion, deliberation, and comment will be made by the committee. Each person providing public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. I don't know if we have any public here that would like to make a comment. I'm guessing none. So number 3, and I'm supposed to be doing this. Hold on. Multitask. Approved minutes. So you should have the minutes from the last meeting in your packet. Do they have the minutes, Griselda?
Yes, they do.
Yep.
Okay.
Right after the agenda.
Awesome.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the April 17th Finance and Budget Committee meeting. Okay, got a second?
Yep.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Indeed.
Awesome.
So our next item is discussion and provide recommendation for proposed fiscal 25 master fee schedule. So you have the fee schedule in front of you. We have a representative from Parks and Rec here that will have a separate presentation for their fees because they did have a significant amount of changes in their schedule. But what I'd like to do is go through the schedule. And what we're looking for is not just addressing the changes, but addressing the schedule in totality. So if there is something that you see that maybe we could be clearer in how we present it, I mean, we're looking for your feedback on the entire schedule, not just the changes of the fees. So we start out with the library. They didn't have any fee changes.
Can I make a comment? Sorry, just a quick comment before we dive into the fees. So a lot of these fees, starting with last year, we've also been sending them to the relevant committees or commissions that are already in place that may be a little bit closer and more familiar with these departments. So library, for example, have also gone to the library for their review and approval, parks for parks, and so forth, planning and zoning to planning and zoning. So we have that additional set of eyes on these fees. That was a new change for last year. And also just kind of like bigger picture, right? Fees is kind of an interesting thing. It gets into kind of philosophy on how you approach fees, right? There's a lot of different ways that you can slice it. You'll see in parks, for example, that if you're not an in-city resident, there's an additional, it's a 25% increase, right? And the idea being that you're still enjoying the services we provide, but you don't pay city taxes, therefore you should pay a little extra for the benefit of that service, right? So there's one example of kind of a philosophical discussion. And so, it also comes to things like, what should a local government provide? What is a reasonable service for a local government to provide? I think it's a good question to ask. As you look at these certain things, you'll see things in pause, for example, that we're going to recommend eliminating. It's just not a thing that probably we should be in the business of doing. And then also it's looking at, well, what would the private sector charge for a service like that? If you were to rent a room at, I don't know if any of you have kids or have had birthdays, but it's expensive to take a kid to one of these jump houses or something and to rent a space. And so we're not only looking at other private entities, but public entities and private entities. So we kind of factor in like, okay, if the local government wasn't providing the services, what are their other options? Are there other reasonable options? Who is best positioned to provide that service? If we choose to provide that service, what's a reasonable cost given the going rates, our cost to do it, and that sort of thing. So as you see the different changes or the existing fees, we've had to kind of weigh those things as we look at each of these individual fees. So if you, as you're looking through these and you say, you know, we're happy to answer any questions that you have on that, or if we all have a different lens that we bring to the table too. So, we offer that, we look for that, as well from you, so. So I just kind of wanted to kind of take a higher level, because it's a judgment call on a lot of these. Some of them are hard and fast costs, and we just pass it through. Others, it's more of a philosophical discussion. All right, thank you.
No, that's good. Very true. So from the library schedule, don't have a lot of fees, but they do have quite a few rooms, so they do have room use fees. We do give a bit of a discount to nonprofits over private, commercial, and political organizations. And so you'll see a difference in those fees. And then they have one equipment use fee. And that's about it. Any questions on those? Not that I can answer them specifically on the library's behalf, but
No, I just find it interesting because I've been to the library to do meetings for probably like 4 or 5 times in the last 6 months, and they've never charged us or anything like that. So this is the first time seeing of the fees, and we go in there and have meetings all the time.
Maybe don't sell. You don't want to get assessed a fee the next time. Right. But I, for all of these, not only for the library, but for the rest of them, it would be nice to see what the revenue from not only like one specific fee might be, because that might be too much detail, but just to get a sense of how many times a fee's assessed and that type of thing would be helpful, because to your point, if you're not getting assessed them, but would like to see as far as revenues, what that means to not only the library, but for police department, that type of thing, just to get that analysis, not just for the ones as they stand today, but moving forward, if there's a new fee, if there's an analysis to see the impact on that too. I don't know if I necessarily need it for this call or this meeting, but it'd be helpful just to get a sense of the revenues for each of them.
These fees do look pretty in line with like if you use the Austin Public Library to rent out a room and stuff. They're pretty close to that. So, and our library's nice. So.
And to your point, as far as with the budget process, that's baked into the process of like, we need you to project your fees that you're going to conclude with by the end of FY25, and then given any changes or what you've seen with the last year, what are you projecting as revenue for the next year? So because we're basing our budget partially on the revenues as
Right.
well. That information is there. We can pull that.
Yeah,
for sure.
that'd be awesome. Thank you.
And then police department, not a lot of fees. They do have alarm permit fees, permitting in general, and also if there are false alarms, and obviously that requires officers' time, and so they do get assessed a fee for false alarms. It's pretty straightforward. So development services, I will say these fees have already gone to our planning and zoning board, and they have reviewed these changes. A lot of these changes are in line with legislation that has come about on development, and so I know that some of the changes they made this year, we're still trying to adjust to the legislation changes for these fees a couple of years ago. So I know that some of these changes were in line with that. And I know these are very specific, and
As a person in construction, I can tell you that these are actually pretty low, so like they're not bad at all, especially on the development, zoning, and landing use.
I mean, they added the utility only just to separate that out. Increased the GIS digital fee. Any questions on any of those?
What is the highlighted area in orange? What is that
So
specific?
those are the ones that have been changed.
Okay.
Or added.
Yeah, those are the changes or new.
I'll say for some of these, pretty substantial changes like the site development extension, $50 to $500. And Any context to provide as far as like the I mean, it's a pretty substantial increase.
I would assume,
1000%.
and this is mostly the case on a lot of the fees, that if we're not recouping our costs on a particular function, we have to adjust the fee accordingly.
In my experience, that would probably be more, the higher number would be more appropriate for the amount of labor that goes into that as opposed to the original number.
Okay.
And one thing I didn't mention earlier when we talk about philosophy and things of that is to the extent that we're not recapturing the true cost of services, the taxpayer base is subsidizing that.
Right.
So to the extent that we're not capturing the true cost of doing a development fee, you all as taxpayers are paying that. Right, so that's a big factor too, is the issue of equity.
Well, and philosophically, when you look at something like the library or the police department that serves everybody, you want those fees to be lower. And I say this as somebody who will be paying these fees, but on the construction fees, especially when the developers come in, they should be the ones paying that cost until it becomes a part of the community. And I think that's more than fair.
Yeah.
It's not like we have a shortage of those, so.
I don't know if I have any other questions as relates to the development services ones.
No questions? Yeah.
So the next schedule is PAWS, our Animal Welfare Services. The director there did have a few additional fees. Dangerous dog boarding fee, that was a discussion that that department brought forward to council in a workshop. The owner surrender is a new fee, and this is just capturing the costs. If owners, basically bring in their dog and say, I don't want this dog anymore, these are some new fees that will help cover, because now Animal Welfare Service is providing everything for that dog now that they just didn't want him anymore.
Do you think that'll lead to an increase in dumping?
Well, we didn't charge a fee for before, and now we are charging a fee. I would hope that it would decrease that type of activity.
Gotcha.
So
What does it mean between altered and unaltered animal?
they're spayed or neutered.
Okay.
Yeah. So as far as the dumping, it's a multi-pronged attack on that, right? Because you'll still get people that'll drive up to the gate and just leave the dog or whatever, or
Yep.
or they'll bring it in and say, hey, can you accept my dog? We say, no, we can't accept your dog, and then that afternoon we're getting a call for a suspiciously
Similar
looking
dog, yeah.
So it happens. What I'd say I'm proud of this group and Rhonda under her leadership is that you're starting a new program where you can list your dog through our website. Like you could still have your dog at home with you and add that dog to our website or cat and try to get it adopted before it even hits the shelter. And
Nice.
that's been a huge success. So they have an option, say, no, we can't take it, but let's get you added to the system so people looking to adopt can come and see your dog.
That's a win all the
which
way
has been
around.
awesome, right? It also reduces our cost too of having to take care of.
Yeah, because if you don't have to do intake, but you can still connect the person to a
That's
new
good.
pet owner, then
That's right.
that is a great win for everybody. That's really good.
And with PAWS, like, we're not gonna recoup costs, right? It's like parks to a greater extent, like, it's just a service that we provide. We talked a little bit internally about the boarding costs, like if we were to board our dog, it's at least $35 a day, from going on vacation. So what we're balancing there is you don't wanna make it so punitive to where they're like, maybe I'm not coming back at all.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So and she's also looking at other animal control facilities and trying to be kind of in line with those to an extent. So that's all kind of weighed in there as well. It's really more about compliance and better outcomes for the animals than anything else.
For sure.
We did remove the fees for the deceased pet services because it really, if you look down in number 3, this is not a service we should be providing anyway, so we took those fees out of the fee schedule.
And that may have made sense when we're a little small city, right? And I could see how that maybe became a thing, but
We have expanded.
the reality is there are other options in the private sector to take care. That's probably not a service that's reasonable for us to provide, particularly at that rate.
Yeah, they do a great job over there. They really do.
And I'm assuming they've probably developed either policies or procedures in identifying kind of dangerous dog boarding versus just regular dog, and that's known, or,
It's usually by the breed, I would think.
yeah, I'm not sure, but. Okay.
Any other questions under pause?
With this one, again, like the deceased pet portion of it, I don't know how many of those we're doing annually or anything like that, or,
I know we did one recently.
Sure.
It was one that took 2 people to get the animal out. It's a big dog.
not really.
So it happens. I don't want to put a number on it, but
Yeah.
it's frequent enough to where we're like, we probably don't need to be doing this.
Yeah, understood.
Under the miscellaneous category, the fee really wasn't changed. I just wanted to set it up a little differently so it kind of stood out a little bit more. And also, we've gone back and excluded Library Recycling Center from this credit card processing fee. So just kind of want to highlight, make that a little bit clearer.
And I want to add this like draft.
Yeah.
Like there's
Yeah.
things that we're still kind of like working through.
Sure.
So for example, with their credit card fees, you might have seen this on Facebook. Some are in arms and some are, they get it. But the reason for excluding the library and the recycling center is that there's such small charges. Like if I'm buying a $4 pack of pencils, it doesn't make sense to tack on a $3 fee. So we're just going to absorb that cost. Like I think it's just the right thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with the recycle center. The bulk of those charges are going to be like $15-20. So to tack on another $3-4 for processing, probably not the best. So we'll just absorb that. So that's kind of the thought behind that. And when I say draft too, we're also looking at parks too. Like we're still kind of going through that process of, because there's also different systems that allow for different things. I hate it, but there's like, if you're with this card, you use that, you have this system, it's this. Sometimes it's a minimum charge plus a percentage, sometimes it's a percentage. So we're kind of going through that process with parks now too. Like, what does it look like when you go buy a pair of socks or a shirt at the rec center? Should we be incorporating those fees or not? So that might get updated in there.
Okay. Yeah.
The thing about the software is usually the software that we're using dictates the third party that we have to use. And so because we have different software across the city, we have different third parties and they all treat fees differently. So it's kind of complicated to try to implement an across the board with those.
But your biggest impact on that is going to be your utility bills. That's the biggest one, right? And that's really the impetus for that. And it goes back to, should you have to pay for his credit card processing fees or not? Like, so it was hundreds of thousands of dollars that the whole system was subsidizing for people to use their credit card. When if that person really wants that convenience and they want to get their points or whatever, like they should probably pay for their own cost on that. So that was really the big impetus behind that change.
I agree with that.
All right. Who's coming to the podium?
Well, just shortly. Good afternoon, FAB. My name is Shane Mize, Director of Parks and Rec. I'm going to introduce Jonathan. Jonathan's our rec superintendent. He's going to go over these with you. But overall, one of the reasons we have a full presentation is because, like they said, we have a citizen committee, but our citizen committee would have saw these in May, but we didn't have a quorum in May. So we'll be presenting this to them in June, so you're seeing it before they will, and then we'll see it before council will. So we have the presentation, it's queued up. Jonathan's going to come out. Just things that we want to highlight, as a lot of this is either usage or improvements. You'll see CIP improvements and bond improvements have necessitated some increases in fees, whether it's the brand new wood floor we have at the rec center, or the new improvements at all the pools, or the new improvement to the Green Red Barn, et cetera. Those types of things, we saw an increase in fees, and we've held off for years increasing some of those things until we got those CIP improvements completed. So, Jonathan, come on up.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Hanson. I'm the rec superintendent. The reason I'm up here is almost all of the fee changes are recreation fees. So I will be discussing these fees with you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and I will run through the slides that we have. Just to let you know, this is not an uncommon practice in Parks and Recreation. We do an annual review of fees with local rec centers, aquatic facilities, to make sure that we're being priced competitively. You can always tell when that happens because you will send an email saying, hey, what are your fees? And everyone else will say, here's my fees, what are yours? And so we all go through that budget process at about the same time. The set fees that are established are for the use of facilities, equipment, and services. So for FY 24-25 user fees, the 2023 Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan provides some cost analysis on our programs and made some recommendations. FY 24-25 adjusting of the fees to align with the current practices due to increased maintenance or staff cost, as Shane said, with improvements coming online. That now necessitates a higher level of taking care of those facilities. Wells Point Park, soccer complex, that's a great example. It's getting renovated this summer. So now the fees that we pay as the city to keep that maintained to a really nice level requires additional cost. And so we are upping the fee to match that quality of field. And then staff, like I said, research locally, nationally when possible to ensure pricing is consistent. The first one is the Green Red Barn. So the Green Red Barn was renovated in October, or was renovated in 2023 and opened in October of 2023. It's a great facility. It's seen increased usage since the renovations to it. We previously have not had a deposit. So essentially what we do is we have rules and policies and procedures in place. We have no way to hold anyone accountable to that because there is no deposit on file. So this deposit would be refunded after the rental, assuming that there are no issues. Anything that's reported to our business operations division, who are the ones who manage these rentals, they would make note of that, and then we would keep that deposit to ensure.
Why is there resident and non-resident fees for the Red Barn, but not Lake Pflugerville and other places like that?
So, for example, the Green Red Barn is an indoor facility, whereas Lake Pflugerville is it's an outdoor facility that people are able to go and use at any point. Green Red Barn is by reservation only. So
Gotcha.
it has to be reserved. It's not just open all the time. It's an enclosed facility.
And y'all don't treat the pavilion at the lake that way? Like you can just walk up there if you wanted to, or?
First come, first served unless it's reserved.
Gotcha.
So if you reserved it, even if I'm in there with my family, we have to leave. But if you didn't reserve it and I didn't reserve it and I'm here first, I'm able to stay in that facility throughout that day.
So you walk up like that, do you even pay at that point? Like, is there anybody there that does intake for payment, or?
No.
You have to pay ahead of time. The reservation happens ahead of time.
Gotcha. So if you reserve, then you pay, but if you just try to wing it, then you might get it for free.
Yeah, we always say, listen, if me and Jonathan, we're gonna hang out, maybe you don't reserve, right? Especially if it's not a big deal if we don't have the space. But if it's a birthday party or a wedding or a family reunion, we always encourage people to make sure they reserve it so no one else can have that space.
Gotcha.
Right?
So next up, we have aquatics. So these are the rental fees for Gillen Creek Pool Rental and Scott Minster Pool Rental. Gillen Creek, as we said earlier, just got a renovation to its bathhouse and lifeguard aquatic office. And so the fee currently is $150. We're proposing to go up 33% to $200. And then you'll see Scott Minster Pool Rental there as well. Scott Minster used an incredible amount during the summer for rentals. And so these changes are made in conjunction with research of what other facilities like us are doing, not just what other facilities, but ones that are similar to us. And due to this increased usage, we recommend a fee increase for Scott Mincer Pool.
These would be more aligned with our peers, as our peer facilities, is what you're saying?
Correct,
Right.
yes. Facility rentals, athletic fields. So Phoenix Soccer Complex is a pretty large soccer facility. It's also used for other things such as cricket, etc. We believe that Phoenix Soccer Field and Bowles Park should be switched on the pricing. Bowles Park is a smaller neighborhood park. It doesn't have a lot of room for a lot of organizations to use. Phoenix Park has a lot more space for multiple organizations to use. So we have essentially flipped those two fees. You'll see that on there. We feel like that more accurately prices for what the usage is. And then Wells Point Park, so last year we renovated the 11v11 fields. This year we're renovating the 7v7 fields, which are on the, if you're looking at the facility, it's on the right side. So this would be increasing that fee to match those renovations. Next up is 1849 Park. So we used to have Bluetooth locks on these, so they're broken up into pod systems. So each organization who rents a pod can go in, and when it was Bluetooth locks, they would unlock it with their phone. They didn't always work. So we actually reverted back to manual locks. So essentially this is changing the fee name from Bluetooth lock replacement to just the lock fee. This fee will also be charged if an organization who rents the field does not close the field upon leaving after their reservation is over. So they are assigned a certain amount of hours per week. If they leave those facilities unlocked, then people are able to get out on them. You have probably seen news articles before of fields getting damaged by people going on and doing non-permitted use. So this fee is going from 75 to 100 to increase that accountability to the organizations. If it's $75, it's kind of like, I'll pay the $75, I left it open. We're hoping that a $100 fee will say, hey, we really need to make sure we lock this.
And it's only assessed if and when it isn't locked or they
Correct.
take the lock or something.
So when our park rangers go and check that the fields are closed, or our business ops division goes and checks, if the fields are left unlocked, it's put into a notification system. So we are tracking each time that happens, and it's only assessed for those opportunities.
Just last season, a similar municipality on the western side of Austin, a group didn't shut the gate afterwards, and some four-wheelers got out there and ripped up the fields, and it took them 6 weeks to get those fields back to playable. So it's not so much, oh, we left it and a group of people came and played open play football afterwards. It's if the damage happens and it prevents everyone from being able to use those fields and the time, effort, and attention it takes to get all the ruts out and to repair everything and get it back to a playable condition, can affect 3 or 4 teams who might use that field's season. Because if they have a season where they've scheduled 6 to 8 weeks and some tournaments, that 6-week layoff either makes us have to find another spot for them, or it potentially puts their season back 6 to 8 weeks.
And that doesn't include if you rain rainouts during part of that time, so then you have even less time to find a place to make those games up.
Easiest way not to assess that is just lock the gate.
Right. I don't know if you guys, I mean, similar to what we were just talking about on the Green Red Barn of doing a deposit similar to that, where there's some accountability there that they won't, you give them they put $100 down.
Yeah, we couldn't just charge a lock fee as a deposit the first of the year and just give it back to them at the end. We could talk to the board about that.
I don't know. I don't want to make any more admin if we don't need to, but
Sure.
that's just, if we're seeing a bunch of occurrences of people not locking it.
We have some groups that are really quite dutiful at locking after.
Sure.
We have some groups that, either because of span of control and how many volunteer coaches or whatever, but we have some groups that like gates more than others. So.
And just to put it in perspective, some of these organizations are really large, so their payment is made after their season. So we do it on a kind of a 3 season allocation, fall, spring, and summer. So some of these organizations for a fall or spring are paying $25,000, $30,000. So a $100 deposit, they wouldn't care.
Sure.
Got it. It's a good breakdown. I appreciate it.
So recreation center resident rentals. So part of what James and Tracy mentioned earlier is making sure for us as the Parks and Rec department that people are taking the use of our facilities who are not citizens are paying the respective amount to access those facilities, which are paid by taxpayer dollars. So there is one of these for residents and one of these for non-residents to reflect both. So for a half-court rental, full-court rental, and that's business hours and after business hours, we are making changes. You'll see that after business hours is actually going down. The reason why is we program our current rec center a lot, and so there's actually very little time that rental fee is used. So to try and increase usage, we would like to reduce that fee. So this is kind of the inverse of some of the other situations that we've talked about. And then you'll see these are the fees for the non-resident. So they are a little bit higher. And then same thing, the after business hours still goes down because since I've been with the city, and it's been about 1.5 years, we've had one. So there are not many of those that happen.
It's partly due to our hours too. A lot of times we're closed at 9 o'clock at night. Not a lot of basketball folks renting an hour and a half to play with their kids by the time we close this there. But yeah.
So since I'm a resident and I work for a company that's not based in Pflugerville, if I were to reserve it on behalf of the company, am I assessed the resident or non-resident?
Yes, so if you're reserving the facility, it's whatever address, and we run that through our GIS system to ensure that it is, some of the addresses that say Pflugerville are not actually Pflugerville residents.
Sure.
So we have to explain that from time to time, but if you are reserving it and you're paying for the rental, then it would be assessed based on your address.
Okay.
Next is membership fees. So we're requesting to make a change to the one-day rec center passes. Currently, this is not broken out into the 18 and up and 18 and under. So we are asking to split this fee into two, one for 18 and up, one for 18 and under, and then increasing the 18 and up fee, and then providing where it's an initial $6 for the youth, essentially, and then it's $2 per day. So it still keeps the cost lower for youth who are coming in, but for those who are adults coming in, the fee is raising a little bit there. And you can see low day pass prices have deterred people from purchasing actual memberships. And so we would like to try and switch as many people over as we can to memberships. They get a card, all the benefits that come with that, but it also allows for some extra tracking that we can do.
What's the policy right now on people that are 18 or under, or individuals that are 18 or under being in there without an adult, or is it?
Yeah, so
Lower than-
anyone 12 and up can be in the facility without, a parent there.
Okay.
14 right now, 14 and up is the requirement. Well, actually, I take that back. 15 and up is the requirement for the weight room area specifically. So you have to be 15 and up to be in there, whether there are parents there or not. So.
I ask you a question, team. The analysis from the 2 to 5, can you just give me more of a breakdown of that $3 increase? I'm just trying to understand because it's a lot of folks are struggling, in this economy, and we don't want to, that become a detriment. It's less business. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to understand the analysis on that 2 to 5. The proposed fee.
Yeah, so part of it, once again, is that the low day pass prices can often incentivize people to do a day pass versus getting a membership. The other part of that, too, is that we feel like this time is often taken up by the adults, which is great. We love to have them in the facility, but it oftentimes means there's not very much room for a youth game to go on. So if there's an adult group in there, your 12-year-old may not feel super comfortable playing with someone who's 18 and up. And so we feel like this will still allow the youth to be subsidized to a certain amount, but that the adults are then paying a little bit more for their attendance. And this is similar amongst other organizations, other rec centers that we see.
Question also, do we have a survey system or feedback system in reference to, citizens, costs, fees, just in parks, recreation, the day pass? Do we have any type of system to get feedback how they are feeling in reference to what they current?
Yeah, the master plan provided us some feedback that we recently passed in 2023. This also stays in line with what we see elsewhere in the industry. Sometimes when someone can pay $1 or $2, the ownership, they're what they care about, if they're not a member of that facility, they can kick a ball around or spill water or drink and not care because it's $2. And even if they get kicked out for causing a fight or something, they were only out $2. But if they paid $40 or whatever for a membership and they weren't able to come back for 24 or 48 hours, there's a higher level of accountability with memberships. So we're trying to push everyone to a membership rate and not a day pass rate. We really want the day pass to be your family member that comes from out of town can use it. We don't want folks that don't want to have that type of membership ownership of that facility. They just want to pay the least amount possible so they can do whatever damage they have to do. If they get kicked out, it only costs them $2 and they can go to a different rec center.
Got it. So do we have any type of, over the last several years, have we been doing anything, in the recreation centers, any type of surveys, feedback?
Yeah, we do surveys to our membership every year.
Okay.
We did the annual at 2023 with the master plan. And then the comms team does I think once every 3 or 4 years, they do a citywide survey as well. So we definitely get a lot of feedback about membership pricing and the value that the rec center provides the community. We score high in a lot of those. We're just trying to get a little bit more ownership on them.
I'm definitely an advocate of the membership, philosophy, scientifically as well as many other ways it can boost more, positives. So just thank you for answering.
Yeah, absolutely.
So next up is the senior fees. This one is mostly just cleaning up the fee schedule on this one. So senior luncheons that are not catered, we have not done any of those since COVID. It kind of fell out of style at that point. It's just been a program that's never come back. So we're just asking to remove that fee to clean up our fee schedule. And then the senior luncheon, which is catered, so those, it's really hard to put an exact price on it because it really depends on where you're getting your food from. And so we would like to change that to a fee that varies. That way we can more accurately price that based on the food item that is being purchased. So if you go to a restaurant, you order catering, it may be a lot more expensive at one place than it is at another. And so we would like to change that to varies.
And I don't know any place that you're going to find $7 a person anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
A
Like I said,
cheeseburger is like 12 to 15 bucks.
yeah,
So
like I said, this fee has not been reconsidered since COVID, and a lot of things changed after that,
Yeah.
especially for the senior population.
That's a good thing.
Gillen Creek pool fees. So we are requesting to raise the adult admission fee, and then stratifying a little bit our child admission and our junior admission. In the fee schedule previously, several of these fees didn't actually have age ranges or didn't have what in practicality would actually be the age range. And so we're asking to add the age ranges to the fee schedule as well to provide more transparency. So increasing the adult admission reflects the increased staffing and operational cost. Similar to how you said you can't find a burger for less than 15, you also can't pay lifeguards minimum wage anymore.
No.
That is not an industry standard, and so this would help reflect that operational cost. Child admission remains the same, but is now defined as ages 3 to 13. The reasoning behind that is anyone 14 to 17 who enters our pool facility is not required to have a parent with them. So they have a little bit of an additional freedom there that the 3 to 13-year-olds would not. So the 3 to 13-year-old is a little cheaper because if you're the parent, you're also having to buy a ticket. Whereas if you're 14 to 17, you can be dropped off by your parents, and so you pay just $1 more there. And then, so that's the junior admission, and then the senior admission is clarifying that it's ages 65 and up, so the fee is remaining the same, but just clarifying who counts as a senior in that fee.
What was the definition for child admission before? Or
It would have been anything 18 and under.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we essentially just added the one section there for junior admission.
A question to team. In past practice, whether several years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, was there a point where senior admission, there was no fee? Because I can see benefits, not only our seniors important in our society, but if they could see the advantages saving, being more healthy, you know what I'm saying? Having that facility and not pay a fee similar to what junior admission was last year. You know what I'm saying? So what are the disadvantages does the team feel if they were to reduce it, whether $1 or no?
Really, it's just the impact. So anytime anyone does anything in our park system, it provides an impact to that facility. And so, as Shane mentioned earlier, it's that buy-in. You are using the facility. You are paying a little something to have that buy-in to enter the facility. And I will say there are some times where you'll do programming that seniors get in for free, but across the industry, there is always a small fee even for seniors.
We've also had a council try to keep our military fee, which you don't see here, but you see on here, as the lowest fee. So it matches what's the child fee or the senior fee. So if the senior fee went to 1 or 0, we would also want to look to lower the military fee, which is another great thing to do. Pools are not cost recovery, for sure. They're definitely something that we do for the service of the public, and getting the $2 out of the seniors isn't going to bridge any gaps, in that either. If that was the direction, we could definitely look into it more. I don't know of a lot of recreational facilities in the area that do anything for free for seniors, but I definitely see the merit.
Indeed, and I'm glad it's not increasing, so that's positive.
And then you'll see the next slide looks a lot like the last slide, just the title has changed because we are also reflecting these changes for Scott Mincer Pool as well. So increasing the adult admission, stratifying the child and junior admission, and then clarifying the senior admission.
I guess on the sheet here, this one does say for Scott Mincer, it's going from 2 to 3, but it's not on the table here, but in the handout, it says from 2 to 3.
Okay, well, yeah, we can definitely clarify that. So Gillen Creek pool fees should go from 3 to 4 for the adult admission.
Sorry, for the senior admission, just the senior admission. On the sheet that you have shown here, it just says 2 to 2, but on this one, it's saying it too? Okay.
Yeah, it would stay too. Seniors don't like Scott Mincer Pool.
Yeah,
It's more of a,
Yeah, it's not like-
yeah.
yeah, you don't see many of them going down the slides.
No.
That's what we probably could do.
Okay.
And then pool passes. So this is another one where we're looking to kind of clean up our fee schedule. And so in last year's fee schedule, we had an all facilities pass. As we've talked about with usage, it was essentially overcharging if you were going to some of the facilities and undercharging if you were going to Scott Mincer. And so we are asking to stratify those out to better reflect the usage for those. So Scott Mincer would stay $300, but would go to a seasonal versus a yearly. And then Family Pass for Gillen Creek and Windermere, that would be a new stratification, putting it at $200 a season.
Aren't those both more expensive than Typhoon Texas, though, for a season pass?
That's a good
I
question.
believe, because Typhoon Texas is like $100 for, and I know it's just the summer, but that's like the prime area of that. And so I'm curious if being higher than that is a positive.
Yeah, I can definitely check into that. I will say this is the family pass, not the individual pass. So we can definitely research what Typhoon Texas fees are.
Gotcha.
I think I think it's 180 a person. But
Is it up to 180 now?
Yeah.
I haven't looked this year, but I know in past years, I think 2 or 3 years ago, it was as low as like 75 or 80 bucks a
Okay,
person.
yeah.
So if it's gone up, then obviously then that would match this. I would just think that while our pools are fantastic, Typhoon Texas is this water park. You know, we would want to not be more than going there, essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that. And then for the individual, youth and adult, and then senior and military season pass. So we are currently, these are just rolled into a yearly pass. It wasn't really broken down into these groups. So we're asking to clarify this a little bit by creating the youth, adult, and then senior and military season pass instead of a yearly pass. So it is seasonal now, which better reflects the usage of our facilities. You know, if you're buying a family pass to Mincer, you're going to be disappointed 9 months out of the year because it's open during the summertime. So,
And for the individual passes, those are just to one of the facilities, so either Scott, Gilliland, or Windermere? Or is it for all?
oh, I see what you're asking. Is it just to one of those facilities or is it to any of them?
Yeah,
For the individual passes, that would be to any of them.
Okay.
Currently.
I'd be interested, like, I don't know, I have a young family, but we wouldn't mind going to all of them as opposed to just buying a family pass for Scott or a separate one for Gilliland and Windermere. I don't know if we've looked at doing all three combined for like a $400 or $350 or whatever.
I think we could look at that and find a value there. We're getting our 5-minute warning, like the Academy Awards. They're trying to play us off. So go ahead and hop through real quick.
So pool passes continued. These are the punch passes. That's kind of the old terminology for them. It was per number of visits. To more accurately track that and to reduce some of the confusion, we would just like to change that to a quarterly pass versus 10 swims. Permits, this is the event permit land use agreement. So this would be anytime a special event requests land usage, and we are permitting them to use that land.
In the past, if you wanted to rent Pfluger Park for an event, the whole park, we didn't have a way to rent that. We could rent you the gazebo.
Sure.
Or a pavilion. So this provides us an opportunity to rent a land.
Gotcha. So it just refers to public Pflugerville-owned land.
Wherever
not in
you're
general,
asking
I'm
if
throw
we're
a
going to
party at
reserve
my
that spot,
house
we
and-
can do that for a cost.
I'm
Yeah,
Gotcha.
exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
this would be any parks facility land that we would be using. And then the adoptive program. So we have 3 different adoptive programs. Currently, there is no fee for this. We are wanting to implement a fee. The reason why is because without a fee, currently we do 2-year essentially reservations for that spot. We'd like to switch it to yearly. The $25 covers the cost of the sign, plus gives a little buy-in to make sure you're doing your cleanups, quarterly cleanups. So the signs are about $10, so it covers that plus a little skin in the game. The reason we're wanting to switch to yearly is because that allows us to track who's doing their cleanups and who is not. Currently, if a group is not, we have to wait 2 years to be able to say, hey, your spot is now open. And these programs get lots of requests.
That was it. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
When's your Parks meeting, Parks Board?
June 20th.
So if y'all are looking at this, there's a lot of fees. If you have more feedback, you can provide that to Tracy and we could get it to the Parks Board.
Is that at noon as well?
AM?
So, very quickly, on the utility fee schedule, there were no changes, but there were no other changes other than adding the encroachment fee. This has just come up, needing to have that fee when people violate the easement. And that's about as much as I know from Development Services on that fee. And then we have water and wastewater. We are still evaluating the water and wastewater rates with our consultants, so none of the actual water and wastewater rates have been updated and changed. these will be discussed, hopefully at the July budget workshop with council. So, you know, I would tune into that to see the update on those fees there. But they did add a couple of changes, and the director changed a lot of these fees just based on the costs that we have against these fees. And the last section is solid waste. We're not proposing any changes to those fees at this time. On June 11th with council, we will also be having a budget work session with them. So just, it's on your calendar. Just want to make sure that if you're interested, you can either attend or tune in to those discussions on the budget. I believe, other than next meeting, August 7th,
Wow, time is moving
that's all we have for you.
Awesome.
Time is moving so fast.
I mean, I feel like y'all's comments are kind of recommendations, and so we've made note of some of the comments that you've made about the fees.
Okay. You said there's the budget workshop that's in July. If I remember from our first get-together, that is something that we can attend, but we don't participate in. Is that correct? Okay, but I
Right.
still, gotcha. And then August is when we'll reconvene.
There's a
And-
June 11th and then a July, like there's a July 9th, I think.
Okay,
Those two, the first one in June is going to be more general fund, and then the one in July is going to be more of your utilities.
and that's in our binder as well, isn't it?
It's on that calendar.
Awesome. Well, thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Brandon Pritchett. I'm the utility director for the city, and I